So looking back to when I started my teacher business, there are several things that I wish somebody told me when I started right from the very beginning. And I think it would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of frustration, and a lot of then future mistakes that I maybe then wasted my time on. So the first mistake that I made, and I know that other people have made this in before, just from when I've been chatting to people who have started their teacher business, or specifically a teachers store, is thinking that your sales or that your resources are going to sell immediately. So for me, I was actually quite lucky, and I have mentioned this in a previous video, that I'm saying lucky, I was kind of lucky and unlucky. It does make me wonder what things would have actually been like from a store if it was different. But anyway, so I started in January 2020, and obviously we all know what happened by March 2020. So a lot of the resources I was making was, worksheets, things that you'd have to print out, activities you'd have to print out and use in the classroom. And obviously all of a sudden we didn't have a need for that kind of stuff anymore. So I had to adapt what I was making to make it suitable for teaching online. And then I was actually very lucky because then there was a lot of demand for stuff to be sent home. So physical packs of activities and worksheets and things that were to be sent home with students and kids and families. So I feel like in one side it was a bit of a negative thing, because I do think it did sort of make the start of my store a bit weird, but on the other side I do think I benefited from it. So it would be very interesting to see where my store would be if obviously COVID didn't happen. And then another thing which I really think helped my store particularly is that I had a particularly viral pin linking to a resource of mine, which I do think helped a lot with growing my store at the very beginning. However, apart from that, it takes so much time, obviously, to get your first resources up and sold. And it is just because there's so many, you're so new especially, so you need to try and make your resources stand out, and it does take time. And even though your resources are amazing, even though they're really eye-catching, engaging, bright, colourful, kids are going to love them, teachers are going to love them, it is just a matter of getting seen and getting the right teachers and the right parents and stuff to see your resources, and all of that takes time. So I think it's very similar to, if you were to start your own website. I mean, if anybody knows anything about, starting a website or starting a blog, or if you're trying to, create your own website to sell things, yourself, you'll know that how long that takes. I mean, even the website that I have, I've got my own blog and stuff like that, and it took so long for it to become visible and for it to be kind of found on Google. So imagine that, but for your teaching resources. So yeah, it does take time. However, it is definitely worth it. So another thing that I wish I knew about when I started was marketing. So this is a bit of a funny one, because I do feel like you can grow your business if you are using sort of websites like Etsy or Teachers Pay Teachers, or even Test. Like, as I said previously, Test is like a UK version of Teachers Pay Teachers, and I know of teachers who make a very good living off there. I'm not too sure how long ago they started. Maybe they started quite a while ago and got, it's taken them quite a while to gain traction. I've tried selling stuff on Test and I only make a few sales here and there, but then I've not put the time into it. So that's, that's obviously why that is. But I do feel like marketing, it depends. I feel like with marketing, you do need to do a bit of it somewhere just to get people to see your items. Obviously, if you're a brand new to your business, if you are creating resources, or if you're doing something else teaching related, maybe if you're making a course, or if you're maybe creating a book or a workbook or something like that, or creating workshops or something, then obviously make sure you've got enough products and enough resources to sell, so that people aren't coming to like an empty shop, so to speak. But there does need to be a bit of marketing going on to get people to see your things. So this could be obviously, through things like Instagram and TikTok, if you like that. It could also be through more long form, like more longer lasting pieces of, content, like YouTube or a blog post or Pinterest. So whatever you prefer. However, I do have to say with marketing, there's a fine balance with it. And I do feel like I'm very guilty of this as well, that I ended up spending quite a lot of time using Instagram for, trying to market my products. And for me, Instagram just wasn't working. And I think the mistake for me is, and it's not to say that Instagram won't work for other people, but I think for me, the mistake I made was spending too long, even knowing deep down that it wasn't working. So just because I quite enjoyed making the posts, I enjoyed looking at the statistics, looking at the views and the engagement and things. However, I was kind of ignoring the fact that it wasn't generating sales, and there were other things like email lists, Pinterest, blog posts and things like that, that was generating sales. And I had to kind of look at myself and be like, right, why are you spending so much time on Instagram and not the sort of forms of marketing that are actually creating and giving you money and giving you, you know, the right type of exposure that you want. So yeah, that is something that was a very big learning curve for me, and something that I think quite a lot of people do fall into. And it's, you know, a lot of it is related obviously to social media and how social media works, like with your brain and things like that. And yeah, it's a very easy trap to fall into. Following on from the marketing kind of chat, one of the other things that I really wish somebody had told me to do sooner was start an email list. Now, I have mentioned this in a previous video about how, you know, an email list is great because you own it, you own all those contacts. You know, if something happens to, say, Teachers Pay Teachers, Etsy, Tess, or Instagram, or YouTube, or whatever, you're not going to lose all your, you know, your contacts, the people that, you know, come to you, that know you, your customers, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have a load of contacts there, so you're not having to start from scratch. So it's a nice little safety net. And you, when you're creating your email list, once you started collecting your emails and you've started to create your list, you don't have to start sending emails right away if you don't feel ready. You can spend a year, 6 months, longer, just collecting emails, collecting the people that have signed up for your freebie. And when you're ready to then start marketing in that way, then you can start sending your emails. You don't need to, you know, you don't need to do it right away. So I think that's where a lot of people get a little bit, and that's what I was worried about as well. So, oh no, if I start collecting emails, I'm going to have to send them something right away. I'm going to have to start sending them something quite regularly, or they're going to think, you know, why did I sign up for that? And, you know, realistically, people don't think that way. Actually, a lot of people probably maybe don't want too many emails. Obviously, I'm one of those people. So yeah, so don't worry about if you're collecting emails and you're not sending something right away. That's totally fine. Do it when you're ready. Take the time and make sure that you're actually sending, you know, good quality emails as well of things that you actually want to share. So another thing which I wish I knew a little bit about before I started my teacher business was about comparing yourself to other people that are doing something similar to you. So you've probably seen other, you know, teacher entrepreneurs, other teachers who started their own businesses, no matter what they are, whether it is selling resources, whether it's a tutoring business, whether it's opening their own forest school or whatever it is. And you're probably thinking, gosh, you know, they're doing so well, they're doing so successful, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I don't want to say this about teacher entrepreneurs, but this is true for a lot of entrepreneurs actually, is that, you know, we only see the good bits that they want to share online. And there are definitely some entrepreneurs, one of just kind of call like all business owners, entrepreneurs out there, who only share the good stuff, and maybe they're making things look like they're a lot more successful than they actually are. There's definitely ones out there like that. But then there's ones that are just, you know, your average people like us, who we share some of what we do, but we don't share everything. And, you know, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know, one, you know, how successful they actually are. And also success is it just depends on your idea of success. Like one person's success, like being really super successful, is earning a couple of £100 a month. Another person is earning thousands a month. So it's all relative, I think, as well. We need to keep that in mind. So, you know, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and you also don't know how long they've been working at it for. For all we know, this person could have been slugging away for 5 years before they even decided to share anything about how they built their business or what they're doing online, or even post their first resource on Teachers Pay Teachers, or, you know, try and sell their first product. We have no idea. So I think just to remember that we're only seeing the bits that they're wanting to share, or even the bits that they have time to share. They might be just too busy. They might want to share more about what's going on behind the scenes, but they just don't have time because they're the only person. And on top of that, some big sort of obviously teacher business owners have got a team behind them. They've got, staff, they've got employees, and we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And actually, it's not really anybody else's business, I suppose, unless people are wanting to share it. So I think that's one of the things that I really wish that I kind of knew more about at the beginning, was kind of like just almost like having blinkers on and staying in, my own lane, not worrying about what other people are doing, not trying to think, oh, I'm going to do that too, or I'm going to try that as well, because then you end up getting a little bit burnt out. And focus on the things that you enjoy doing, you're good at, and the things that you're ready for. And as long as you're consistent at doing those things, I do believe that, your growth will come. And I feel like that really links really nicely to the next thing that I know that I've done, and it's something that I wish I kind of knew not to do. And I wouldn't even say it's something, I do think it's something that you can fall into at the beginning, but it's definitely a mistake that a lot of sort of new-ish business owners, teacher business owners can do once they've kind of got into it a little bit and they're past that very beginner stage, and it's taken on too much and trying to do too many things at the one time. So I know for me, I've done this quite a few times actually. And again, I do think it's linked to the mistake before, where you're kind of maybe comparing yourself to other people. And it's where you say, right, okay, I've got my Teachers Pay Teachers store. Oh, this person's also doing like a YouTube channel. I'm going to go and do that too. They've got an Instagram. I'm also going to try and do that. They've got an email list. They've got a Pinterest. They've started a blog. And then you end up with so many things that you're trying to do. And then for me anyway, I ended up not doing any of them particularly well and feeling quite overwhelmed, and then you end up just getting burnt out and you don't enjoy doing it. And all these times that I've done this, I've ended up stripping everything back and just thinking to myself, right, what do I actually need to do here to earn myself money? What is actually worthwhile doing? And that is actually where I completely stopped posting on Instagram. That's kind of where that came from. So just to prove my point, I do have, technically, I'm not saying I use all these, but I do have a website with a blog on it. I've got my email list. I've obviously got my Teachers Pay Teachers store. I've got a test store. I've got an Etsy store. I've got this YouTube channel. And you'll even see on this YouTube channel how patchy my videos have been, in the past. I've got a Pinterest account, I've got an Instagram, and I've got a TikTok. And I think that's everything, but there's probably things I'm missing. So just to be totally transparent, I do not post on TikTok at all. Can't remember the last time I logged into the account. I've stopped posting on my Instagram. And as I mentioned before, this is something that I used to kind of go back and forward with because I genuinely enjoyed using it as a platform. I think I've not posted on it for about a year now, because it's July, and I'm pretty sure if I look at my posts, the last post that was from autumn, fall, if you're American, from last year. Now don't get me wrong, I still use Instagram because I use it to look at things. None of it's teacher related. I don't do any teacher related stuff on Instagram. I do still have people that I like to follow and things like that, so I do look at their stuff, but most of the things that I look at is just for fun, personal stuff like fashion and stuff like that. So I do not use Instagram at all. I think I found that I wasn't getting any sales from it or anything like that, so I had to make that really hard decision and be like, nope, we're not doing anything on Instagram anymore, which is such a shame, because I felt like I built up quite a healthy number of followers and I was getting a lot of engagement, but again, none of it was translating into sales. So Instagram for me personally, TikTok no, YouTube, I do feel like with YouTube it's worth it. It's just making sure that you've got the time to commit to it. And the only reason that I think I've started doing it now, because I did do it right at the very beginning, was because I have actually done a YouTube channel from my other business that I do with my fiance, and I feel like I've learned enough to make doing YouTube easier. So in the beginning when I started YouTube, I found it quite difficult and it just took so much time and I just couldn't justify spending that much time on that. Whereas for my other business that I do, it's been worth it. And because I've seen the growth from that channel, it spurred me on to think, right, let's have a go at doing it this way for this channel. And again, I feel like even the filming process, the editing, everything's just so much easier because I've done it for a year now for the other channel. So yeah, that's where I am with that. For blogging, I'm just kind of going through everything now, which is probably not maybe what you wanted to hear, but I hope it's useful to maybe at least one person. For blogging, that's something that, again, I would say is definitely worth it if you have the time for it. Now, what I actually did was I wrote 12 blog posts over the course of a few weeks, and then really sort of scheduled them out. So there was one going out once a month, just so there was something new going up on my blog over the year. So that's one way to do it. But if you enjoy writing and you prefer writing compared to making videos and to making, you know, images and things like that, probably that's the best thing for you. Pinterest, with that as well, I've kind of stripped back with that, because I found recently that my views were just kind of going a bit stagnant. I was spending quite a lot of time making pins, and I just didn't have enough time to really get into why I wasn't growing. So stopped for a few months, and what I'm doing now, which I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, is I actually just pin the thumbnails and the covers and the images, the mock-ups that I use for my resources, and actually those are doing fine. Like, my Pinterest engagement's going up a little bit. Like, it's not amazing, but it's better than nothing, and I am actually getting traffic from that. I've always gotten traffic from Pinterest, so, and that's just an easier way to do it, rather than me sitting making separate images for each product. I'm just using the images I've already got, and that seems to be working well for me just now. And I'm also doing my emails, which I also copy and send in my note to followers on Teachers Pay Teachers, because I think I hadn't realised how many followers had started following my store. I think there's well over 1,000. I think there's nearly 2,000 actually now, 1.8 thousand people. So I was thinking to myself, gosh, why am I not sending these people something? These people have actually chosen to follow my store, not just sign up to get a free thing. They've probably bought from me or whatever. So what I do is I send out the same thing on my email list to my note to followers as well. So out of marketing, if you do want to know what I do think is worth it, definitely think some sort of form of longer pieces of content, whether it's a YouTube video type stuff or blog post writing. I definitely think that's worth doing. And email list, which you can then copy to your note to followers if you want to. And I do think Pinterest is worth it. And those are the things that I think are worth it. And that's just my experience, my honest opinion. Obviously, it's not to say that some people might not find success with Instagram and TikTok and things, but for me, and from what I've heard from other teachers in this sort of teacher business space, a lot of them find it quite tricky. But obviously, you might be completely different. So sorry, that was quite a long chatty bit all about burnout, but I do think that I can talk about like avoiding burnout for like in so much depth. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, please comment below, because I do have a lot of ideas, a lot of tips, things that I do, things that I've tried out that work, things that I've tried out that don't work, things that I've tried out that worked but I just don't do them anymore. So yeah, I know a lot of different ways that you can streamline what you're doing so that you're using things that you've already done and you're sort of giving yourself less work, but you're still getting all the stuff done that you want to get done. So this is something that I've spent quite a lot of time looking at and sort of figuring out how to do, and I feel like it's taken me 5 years, no, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, however many years I've been doing this. It's taken me this long to kind of get a schedule that I'm happy with, and it's taken that long. And obviously, going back to the burnout stuff, I didn't do all those things that I listed before all at once. I really want to be clear with that. I think when I first of all started, for like the first year, all I did was Teachers Pay Teachers, creating resources, listing items, and getting them up on my store. And then I gradually tell a lie, I did do Instagram because I enjoyed it. But I didn't feel like at that point it was work, and I didn't really care about the link between my resources and Instagram and trying to make money from it. Maybe if I did, then I maybe would have felt differently about Instagram, I don't know. But yeah, I didn't start looking at like email marketing or anything until I want to say a year into creating things. Obviously, I would not suggest doing all these things all at the one time. As I said, I've been doing this for nearly 6 years now, and only now do I feel ready to add doing YouTube. I've tried it, I want to say 3 times, and every single time it was just too much for me, like at that time. Whereas I feel like now I can actually manage it, and it has been because I've gotten rid of Instagram, gotten rid of TikTok, I've streamlined Pinterest, I've streamlined my email marketing, I've got a lot of kind of templates and things sorted for creating resources. I've kind of got my resource creation side all planned out, so I don't have to think about that. So it means I can focus on something new, which obviously right now is YouTube. So I feel that leads really well into my next point, which is not underestimating how long your growth can take, which is kind of just what I was talking about there. And growth could not just mean earnings, it could also mean adding things to your business, new things that you want to try. And for me, obviously, as I said, it's taken 5 to 6 years to be able to get to the point where I feel ready to add on something else that I want to add to my business. So it's the same with, creating your resources, getting your first few sales, getting your first maybe 50 email subscribers. It takes quite a long time, and I think I mentioned this before in a couple of videos ago, that your growth isn't just going to be a straight line. It's going to have bumps, and it's going to have bits where you shoot up really high and then it's going to plateau a bit. You might end up losing a few, subscribers, or not doing as well for a little while, have quieter periods, and that's totally fine. Like, I've had that. I've had times where my email list has grown really quickly and then all of a sudden it's went flat, and then all of a sudden I've actually lost subscribers, and then I've had another big bit of growth. And it's just one of those things that don't think that just because you're not growing steady, you're not growing at all. And I think I found this out with my other YouTube channel that I mentioned, is all our videos for quite a long time were very the same, as in the number of views we were getting. And then all of a sudden, one of our videos did particularly well, and it then caused our entire channel to grow, much more. So you never know when you're going to do that one thing that could then just push you over into that high growth period of time. And I just think that's really important to point out, and it's something that I wish I kind of knew about a bit sooner. And the last thing that I do wish that I knew about a bit sooner, and it's something that I am very guilty of being, I suppose, distracted by, and it's something that I'm going to actually try out now, but I'm going to be very focused with it. So the mistake is not thinking beyond, say, selling your teaching resources. So a lot of people, when they start a teacher's business, they might just think, right, I'm going to sell my resources, whether it's going to be on Teachers Pay Teachers, Test, Etsy, your own website, whatever. However, there are so many other ways that you can monetize your skills, your knowledge, and your passion. And it doesn't need to be just selling teaching resources. So this is where you can do things like selling workshops. So if you're comfortable being in front of a camera, you can videotape you doing different workshops for teachers. Maybe it could be workshops for parents, helping with things at home, whatever it is. And you can create like a membership site. I think Kajabi is one I know off the top of my head. You can even do it through YouTube if you have enough subscribers. And you can create like video workshops. Like, I actually know of somebody, it was actually that my cousin showed me, and it was to do with early years learning. I can't remember the name of it though. And what she does is she has an online store, and she just sells very short workshop classes with like printable resources and things, and she's only maybe selling them for like a few pounds, but because they're very short and they're very like focused. And I'm pretty sure the way that she does it is it gets sent in an email or something to the person, but it's obviously hosted on a website. You'd have to kind of look at how to do that, so I'm not sure. But that is one way of doing it. You don't have to sell just printable resources or PDFs or whatever. You can, do workshop type videos. You can do podcast stuff and sell that. Like, if you'd rather not be on camera, you could even do workshops, do lectures, do activities, all that kind of stuff on podcasts. And then another thing that you can do is use your skills to help other businesses, almost like freelance work. So this could be done through consulting, it could be done through writing blog posts, and this is the thing that I'm kind of looking at. So that is something that I do kind of go in and out of, is because I do have my own blog, I have written for another website for their blog, and I really enjoy it. And now I'm just thinking, why don't I do that more? Like, it's something I enjoy, it's something I know a lot about, it links really well to everything that I'm doing. So that's something that I'm kind of looking at that's outside of my teaching resources side of my business, and I really would like to maybe do that a little bit more. And then even things like tutoring and stuff. So I also tutor online, as well as selling my resources and things. So it's all kind of linked, but it's all very, very different parts to your business. So so don't just think, about selling my resources. Think outside the box a little bit and think, what else can I do? Can I create? What would I love doing? And you could also grow your business in all those different ways as well. And again, that's something that I really wish I kind of knew that I could do, like that I wasn't just so like kind of closed-minded about only selling teaching resources. That's the only way I could think, and that's the only way I could make money. But I do think that maybe I wasn't ready for adding anything on back then. So, but it's nice to be aware of it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the video there. I'm actually going to link this resource that I have put together about how to kind of set up your teaching business in 7 days. I'll link it below if you're interested in it. It's free. But if you found this video useful, make sure and subscribe, turn the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!